Well, good morning on this misty, misty morning. Very still, the air is very still, and it's not terribly cold, which is probably why we have the mist. Just going to go around here. Jack's gone racing around the back. Jack! Come on. Let's go around this way. So I'm just going to go down to the post box, check the mail. A little bit of bird song. I don't know if you can hear it. And you can see from there, there are some birds at the bird feeder. So Nick is here working on the shelves in the kitchen. We're hoping to have them finished today. And then I have to paint the wall, do a little bit of repair work, just cosmetic really. It's only where I painted around things, as you do. I don't know whether this is just primarily a female thing. Females being always short of time and a little bit more practical maybe, I don't know. But certainly I have a tendency to paint around things rather than, you know, clear the wall and do all that preparatory work. Everything's done more or less on the hoof at Bealtaine Cottage. I might just take a notion to do a bit of painting. Jack, come here. Isn't he a rascal? Come up here, come on. Now, come back. I often wonder why the birds are so quiet during these winter months. And I imagine it's because they're conserving energy. Because I do hear some birds, I see a lot of birds, usually swooping low, you know, through the trees or in recent days, of course, going to the bird feeder. And then I measure their activity as well, just by looking at shrubs like this, you know, the cotoneaster, where you have all these berries. And you can see where they have been eating the berries and foraging. So they have been very active. But of course, that beautiful bird song doesn't start to happen until really the end of this month. So the beginning of February, that's when you have this wonderful bird song beginning to almost suddenly erupt. And of course they have a reason to sing at that point because they're looking for mates and they're building nests and the days are growing longer. There's a lot more light. And with the light comes that beautiful rising of energy. So it's all tied into, I suppose, the light. As so much of our own world is tied into the light. So much of what we do is predicated on light and how that makes us feel, how it rises energy. I love these dead heads. They're very skeletal, very beautiful. And the sound of water in the background. Now, Jack, we'll just walk on down to the lane. And of course, as I walk, I'm continually looking for those signs of spring. And I'm looking for signs of life. I'm just looking down here into the leaf mould on the side of the driveway. You can see where the thrush and the blackbird have been down there rooting around in that, looking for food. Of course, there's masses of food is kept sort of locked in underneath the leaf mould. You can see here. And they're quite proficient at this. And it's a sad thing that so many gardeners have this urge to clean up, you know, and to gather up all the leaves and bag them. I've seen a lot of this, just, you know, driving around, and also regardless of whatever country I've been in, I've seen gardeners clearing up leaves, bagging them, and even leaving them out to be collected by the refuse collectors. Now you can really see how deep the mist is, just looking over there. And there's a beautiful, oh, going very, very fast, wood pigeon. And there's my little garden along the roadway. I think I'll walk up along here, just so you can see the beautiful density of planting. Of course, I was very compelled to tidy this up at the end of the summer and the autumn, but I resisted, and I'm so glad I did, because the time to really tidy up is, you know, as the spring starts to emerge. And in between, all the little creatures need to have as much cover and as much ground cover as possible, even leaving this teasel here. You can see where the birds have been eating the seeds. That's very important food for birds. And all those brambles, of course, will have to be cut back. But again, there's a time for that. And you can see the barbed wire there. At some point I'm going to get in there and take that barbed wire down. That was put there when there was cows on the land. You know, I really loathe barbed wire. I loathe it. I think it's a lazy way of fencing, and it can be very cruel. I don't like it. So that's coming down. And I'm looking towards this year now for doing some of these tasks that have been a very long time in the making, as they say. Jack, come on. So we'll go back down along the road. You can see where I've planted willow here, and I've planted silver birch and ash. And I've shaped that goat willow to give that as much longevity as possible. And I've planted lots of little shrubs as well. And you can just see in, at this point, you can see in to the lower garden, the lower woodland garden, where there's a bench and a chair. course, all this will be quite transformed when it's tidied up. But time enough, as my grandmother used to say. Time enough. We have a sense of urgency to control nature. You know? It's been sort of bred into us over the course of thousands of years. And I think the fear of nature has been the big sort of channeler of that. You know, where you can't allow nature to come too close. It's almost criminal how successive regimes, under whatever guise they've appeared in, have quite deliberately disengaged us from nature. And I've just got to ask myself, is this because nature empowers us? I mean, the ancient Celts were incredibly empowered by nature because they just lived in those cycles. They understood them in a very inert way. They just understood that they were part of it. And in that understanding, of course, you know, if you feel you're part of something, you are naturally empowered. If you feel you're not part of something, that can be quite disempowering for you. So those ancient peoples were very empowered, and they had lots of confidence in the way that they lived with nature, and they lived with the sky, the sun, the movement of the stars at night. They understood all of that, and they were so at peace with what they knew that when it came to being proselytised by the Christian church, they just accepted it so readily, because they had this deep sense of connection, this deep sense of spirituality. And so everything else seemed to make sense. And of course the rest is history, as we know it. Jack? There's the little daffodils beginning to open up. Maybe a little while longer, because those buds, of course, now are relying on light, and to a certain extent warmth. Maybe just, you know, a 1 or 2 degree, probably Fahrenheit warmth, but more often than not on light. Jack? Good boy. So there are many people who are intrigued by what my spirituality is, and it's very hard. It's very hard to kind of pot it up and put it into a little file and say this is it, because I'm still developing an awareness. For me, it's a journey. I do feel very connected to my ancient ancestors. That used to make me feel a little bit different, but you know, as I grow older, I understand that actually there are a lot of people feeling the same way, and they're feeling that deep sense of connection. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean that they are pulled away from one sense of spirituality and towards another. because the ancient Celts weren't like that anyway. They were able to dovetail all these new beliefs into what they already understood. And I say understood rather than believe. Because I think the word belief only came with religion. I think before that it was an intuitive understanding of what it meant to live in a certain way. I could walk for hours just in amongst life. I see so much life. And as the winter comes slowly to an end, it's just amazing how much life is just ready and eager and longing to break through. I'm seeing all the little bits of it. Buds just slowly beginning to thicken. Little black buds on the ash. It's just beautiful to see so much of this. And the colours are starting to deepen in the willow. It's a sure sign that sap is almost ready now to start rising. There's a pushing upwards of life. And this was something that the ancient ancestors recognised, that through that pushing upwards of life, that life itself emanated from Mother Earth. They only looked skywards at night in order to be able to gaze out into that infinity and try to understand what that was about. I wish you all a beautiful day.